The Democrats are now floating Hillary Clinton for 2024. You got to love that. Just what the country needs. Joining us now to discuss with propriety are Monica Crowley, former Assistant Treasury Secretary, and Dave Bossie, President of Citizens United. You know, Monica, love, it's hard to believe, but I guess what goes around comes around. I read this Wall Street Journal editorial. Two friends of ours, right? Dougie Schoen, Andy Stein. And I just go, oh, come on, fellas. Really? Really? Is that what we're going on this? What do you think, Monica Crowley?
Well, I wrote a whole column about it today in the New York Post, Larry, because we've been observing Mrs. Clinton now for 30 years since she has been on the national political scene. And what we do know is that old blonde ambition has not waned one bit. She has spent her entire adult life wanting the top job, wanting to be president, and she still has not given it up. And now she sees President Biden, Vice President Harris, the entire Democratic Party in catastrophic collapse. And for her, she now sees an opening. So if Biden doesn't run, which nobody realistically believes he will, and Vice President Harris is so historically unpopular that I don't think she's going anywhere, Mrs. Clinton will have to put off some ambitious comers like Stacey Abrams, perhaps Michelle Obama. But I think in the end, she is not going to give up that fight because she still wants the job.
The person who should run against Joe Biden in the Democratic primaries, David Bossie, is Joe Manchin. Not Hillary, Joe Manchin. Okay, the last of the blue dog Democrats from the grassroots, with people who work with their hands. The deplorables will love him. He's been steady as a rock. I know he ain't perfect on every issue, but then again, nobody ever is. I'm just saying, not Hillary. Hillary, listen, David, look at the senior staff of Biden. They're all ex-Hillary people or ex-Clinton Foundation people or ex-Obama Hillary people. You follow me? You could put her in and nothing will change.
Larry, if this was the Democratic Party of Ronald Reagan or JFK, you might be talking about a Joe Manchin being able to run for president in a Democratic primary. Today's Democratic Party is a socialist party. It is far left, and Joe Manchin has no real place in that party. So that's not happening. The reason that a person like Hillary Clinton, and Monica's piece was spot on today, is that Joe Biden is such a disaster, and Kamala Harris is such a disaster, and their policies, whether it's the crime crisis or border crisis or inflation crisis, you name it, Afghanistan. We have one problem after another, and the American people are rejecting their policies, thank God. And you know what? I think people would take a couple of mean tweets about now.
But the thing is, Monica, here's something. There's a lot of things in life I don't understand, and as I get older, I accept that I don't understand things. But one of the things I don't understand is, so you're the president, your polling numbers at the end of the first year are dropping down into the low 30s. And we just had this liberal Quinnipiac poll, 33. He's barely beating the temperature outside in his polls, and yet he doesn't change, Monica. He just doesn't. We had him on before. You should have heard him sputtering and blathering about counting votes. Nobody knows what the hell he was talking about because they don't. I mean, well, how can they not change?
Well, you know, they realize that all of the activism and intensity in the Democratic Party is on the far left. So there is no real incentive to change because what motivates them is the fundamental transformation of the nation. So they're not going to let a couple of burps, you know, put them off course. The problem is that they are taking the country off the cliff with them. And the only thing that really motivates them to change or adapt in any way is sinking poll numbers, particularly going into the midterm elections. So you may see some moderating forces like a Ron Klain or even a Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema lean on this White House and say, this is going to be an epic bloodbath no matter what. But if you don't want to see us go into absolute obsolescence and oblivion, you better change course. So they may start perhaps lifting some of the COVID restrictions in the spring and so on, tinkering at the margins, but their core economic strategy is not going to change.
He's losing everything. He even lost John Roberts in the Supreme Court decision today. He's losing everything. Dave Bossie, here's another one for you. We mentioned it last night, but I didn't give it enough here. Tom Friedman, okay, you know, New York Times columnist. I know him. You all probably know him. He's a very nice guy, very smart guy. So he wants, this is too wonderful. You want Liz Cheney out of the party. Friedman wants Biden to pick her as vice president, or Lisa Murkowski. And next thing you'll know, this guy Kinzinger, whatever his name is. So, David Bossie, is this your idea of a funny joke, or do you think Biden's really going to go for Liz Cheney? Come on, fess up.
No, give me a break. Tom Friedman's, you know, out of his mind. You know, the column made no sense. I read it. You know, it's pie in the sky for a guy who has to fill 800 words. But Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger need to be voted out of the Republican conference. They are doing damage to our party. They are doing damage to our brand. Their hatred of President Trump is what is driving them every day. Has nothing to do with what happened on January 6th. This is the third impeachment in their minds of Donald Trump, and that's what this is about. And that's why they have to go, and they have to go now.
Yeah, well, you're probably right on it. Look, I hate to say it. I'll say two things. Everybody's going to yell at me. One is, I think Tom Friedman is a very smart guy. I mean, I don't happen to agree with his political thinking here. I think he's a very smart guy. And the other thing that hurts me so much personally, Dick Cheney, Liz's dad, is not only an old friend, a mentor, in my opinion, a great American. Maybe he didn't get everything right or wrong, Absolutely. But I think the world of Dick Cheney, I always have. When I came back to Washington to work President Trump, Dick welcomed me, given me advice. Liz, too. I always liked Liz Cheney. She's gone off the deep end, though. It's crazy stuff. Well, all right, so I like the Mansion challenge to Biden. I'm going to stay with that. Nobody believes me. I kind of like that. I'm trying to watch Monica to see if I get a laugh out of her, but I kind of like that. Blue dog. By the way, speaking as a former Democrat, JFK Ronald Reagan, former Democrat, Donald Trump, former Democrat. You know, kids, the best Republicans are former Democrats. Oops, I actually said it on the air. Thank you. Happy New Year to both of you. Monica Crowley,
Thanks,
David
Larry.
Bossie.